we're going to go ahead and get started with our webinar for today. Thank you for attending. You are in the Forget the Paper, Let Google Drawings Take Over. And so this is part of our NWACA webinar series. We do these weekly webinars, and today is about Google Drawings. So for the next hour, we're going to be talking about how other people are using Google Drawings and then how you can go ahead and get started with Google Drawings in the classroom. So I'll run through a couple housekeeping things for our webinar for today, and then we'll go ahead and get started with getting into Google Drawings. So a little bit about myself. I am the host for this webinar. My name is Chrissy Hughes. I work at NWACA. I am an educational technologist over there and also a Google for Education certified trainer. I've actually been at NWACA now for 13 years, and prior to that, I taught third grade over in an elementary building. And outside of work time, I have 3 awesome kids, Bridget, Clayton, and Ashlyn, that keep me busy when I'm not at work. My contact information is there. Feel free to give me a call or send me an email if you have any questions after this webinar, or if you need any assistance with any kind of Google apps inside your classroom. So just some webinar housekeeping before we go ahead and get started. I think everyone is muted at this point. If you are not, you can go ahead and mute yourself, but please don't hesitate to ask any questions. You certainly can use the chat box off to the side, which I will go ahead and send out a quick chat just to make sure everybody is getting that. But if you would like to just unmute yourself and go ahead and ask a question, feel free to do that as well. Either way works. If you'd like to follow along in your own Google Drawings account, please feel free to do that. Just go ahead and open up another tab or another window inside Google Chrome so that you can still see me and hear my voice, and then also work in your own account. Google Drawings is available in your school educational account, or if you don't have a school account, it's also available in just a regular Gmail account. So you can feel free to use either one of those. So our objective for today is to learn how Google Drawings can be used in and out of the classroom. We're going to talk about creating flyers and digital poster boards and interactive lessons, all using Google Drawings. And before I get too much into this, I am going to go ahead and send out a really quick chat to everybody, and just make sure that you can go ahead and get that. So it should pop up for everybody in the chat box. If you've never been in one of our webinars before, that should just automatically pop up as like a little message. So feel free, once again, to communicate with me that way, or just go ahead and unmute yourself if you have any questions. we'll go ahead and drag this one over, and so that we feel, I don't know, maybe we feel cold. So we're going to go ahead and type that in. So that's just a text box. So we can go ahead and alter any of these. If you are a teacher and you do a calendar event at the beginning of the day, this would be a great thing to do. You can have your students come up and drag these text boxes over. You can have your students drag the images over, and you can go ahead and use this. Or once again, you can have your students make a copy of this, or you can make a copy for them, and then they can alter their own Google drawing. So I'll go ahead and undo those things just so this is split if you want to make a copy of it. So I'll go ahead and close out of this one. So graphic organizers, making goals. And when we talk about graphic organizers, of course, the easiest graphic organizer that we talk about are Venn diagrams or any kind of diagram that we can go ahead and move different things around. I also wanted to mention this one, and so I'm thinking of a teacher that maybe teaches health. And so maybe you have some sort of goal for health class. And so maybe, that you're going to put your goals in these shapes. And so what I did was I created a shape using the Shapes tool right up here. And then I went ahead and I used the paint bucket to change the color of the shape. And so by default, a shape will be like a bluish color, but you can go ahead and change that by using the paint bucket. If it's a shape, not necessarily an image, but if it's a shape, you can go ahead and just double click inside the shape and your cursor automatically pops up. So then maybe I'm going to talk about what goal I have for this school year, or what goal I have for the summer or something. And then maybe I want to talk about ways I can get to that goal. So I'm going to go ahead and put some text in here, and then I can go ahead and use these line tools right here to connect all these different shapes. And so I'll show you really quick if I'm going to do this type of flow chart, maybe this goal chart. Of course, I can go ahead and type in my text here. But let's say I wanted to go ahead and put a shape down here at the bottom. So I can go ahead and select a shape, or I can use that Control D or Apple D to duplicate. I can do that too, and then just move it anywhere I want to. But let's choose a circle. Let's just be different. So I'm going to hold down with my mouse, and I'm just going to drag it out so that I get a circle. Now it does keep the same color because my paint bucket was already purple. But if you're just starting this, your color will be like a bluish color, so you'll want to select your shape and then go ahead and change it using that the paint bucket. You also can click on gradient. Some kids like to use this gradient tool where it just kind of gives it that little different colored look, so you can go ahead and do that. Again, any type of shape that you're doing, you can just double click on it and your text box or your cursor will automatically appear. What I do want to mention to you though is because if I move this shape anywhere, so let's say I'm going to move this shape way over here. I'm going to talk about this line tool. And so we have this line tool here, and in this template, of course, I already have some lines created, but let me just go ahead and delete this line. And so now I want to connect this shape to this shape, and I can move it back here, that's fine too. So I'm going to go up to my line tool, and I can choose any of these lines, including this scribble tool. Lots of kids like to use the scribble tool. Maybe you're going to talk about a map, and you can say, I'm going to get from point A to point B, where it's not necessarily a straight line. So you may want to choose the scribble tool that will allow you to kind of make a line that's pertinent to that particular map. But in my case, I'm just going to we'll choose this curved connector. We'll do a little bit different. And so if you notice, when I hover over each one of these shapes, I get these purple dots that come up. And so what this means is if I click and hold on this purple dot, and I click and hold and click and hold, and have it attached to the second purple dot, watch what happens. Now, if you look at my cursor, it's still that plus sign, that crosshair, so it's still ready to create a line. So I'm going to go ahead and click on my cursor tool up here so it cancels out of creating lines. And now what happens, because I clicked on purple dot to purple dot, I can take this shape and I can move it, and my line follows it. And I think that's really an important part to notice, because if you are creating any kind of flow chart or diagram or something that maybe the students are adding and adding and adding, and you don't want to have to keep redoing those lines, you can go ahead and create a line tool, make sure that it attaches purple dot to purple dot, and then you can go ahead and move this anywhere, and then it will go ahead and stay. Now notice how this one did not stay because I did not connect this using the purple dots. So I will have to go back and choose a line tool and connect purple dot to purple dot, but this one did connect. That one did stay there. So that's important to know if you're doing any type of diagram, that you can go ahead and move things around if you need more space and not worry about your lines getting disconnected. So once again, I'll go ahead and undo this in case you want to use this template for anything. If you're going to make a copy of this presentation, you can go ahead and do that. So I'll just undo a couple times, and then you can go ahead and use this. So that one is the flow chart, just any kind of goal chart. Again, you can just double click to put your text in there and go ahead and use that. I will also note that up here where it says name and date and directions, that once again is just a text box. So if I'd like to put a text box in there for the name and the date, and then I just use my my line tool right here to create a line, and then I put directions right there. So just simple text boxes that I can go ahead and put in there. So I'll go ahead and close out of this one, and I'll go to the next one, which is called the timeline. And this is a really popular one if students are doing projects. And if you think about ways that maybe you're assigning projects to students that they're doing it on paper, they're doing it on a poster board. If you can kind of think of ways that instead of that poster board, instead of that paper, they can do it in Google Drawings. And so it basically becomes that digital poster board. So with that said, this one is called the timeline. And so I have down at the bottom, I've created a line tool, and I just made one straight line in the line tool. And then here I've created little tiny lines. Of course, I used that Control D or Apple D to duplicate it so that I didn't have to make all kinds of lines all the time. This one is a text box. This one is a text box. These are all different text boxes because I wanted to have the ability to move them after the fact if I wanted to. Again, if you're doing anything that you want to move, make sure that you put them in individual text boxes. Up here, I just put a picture up here of Dr. Seuss that I found out on the web, so I'll show you how to do that in just a second. But over here, this is a shape. I double-clicked on this to create Dr. Seuss, and these are all different icons, different shapes, or different images that I found out on the web. And I want to point this out, too, because Google Drawings, and this is one of the preconceived ideas that people have about Google Drawings, because people are so used to using Google Slides and Google Docs and other applications. Google Drawings is one page and one page only. And that's important to note because if I want to do a digital poster board and I have just so much information that I can't fit it all on one Google Drawing, you pretty much have to put it on all one Google Drawing, unless you want to create a second one and name it something different, because Google Drawings is literally one page and one page only. Now, I can go down here to the bottom of my Google Drawings, if you can see this little icon down here in the corner, and I can make this bigger if I want to. I can make it just a little bit bigger, but I cannot add another page. There's no way to do that. So that's really important. If you're going to make this bigger, of course, and you're going to print it, keep in mind that, that may alter your printer settings. So you need to make sure that you go up to File, Page Setup, and then go ahead and go up to or change, your margins or your pages or whatnot. But because it's only one page, we have to use the ability to link out to different things. And so if you notice when I clicked on some of these, it actually went out to a link. Not all of them are linked, but some of them are linked. And so, for instance, if I was researching Dr. Seuss, if I was a student and I was researching Dr. Seuss, and I wanted to put a map of maybe his birthplace and, where he was when he wrote these books, or maybe when, where he was when he died or so forth, I can go ahead and label those place marks in a Google map, and then I can go ahead and link it out to this Google Drawing. This YouTube right here, if I went out to this YouTube link, this will go out to a YouTube video about Dr. Seuss. This one right here goes out to a spreadsheet about Dr. Seuss. So I'll go ahead and visit this one. This talks about his bibliography of all the titles, the years, the publishers of all of the different things that he's done. And so, again, because I can't fit all of this inside my Google Drawing, I can use the link to it, and I can link it out to that Google drawing. Now, if you're familiar with links inside Google applications, it works the same way as it would to link out inside of a Google drawing. So for instance, if I wanted to take this spreadsheet right here, and I had all this ready to go, or I wanted to take a YouTube video, or I wanted to take a Google Doc. It doesn't matter what it is. I want to go up to this share button up here in the corner, and when I do that, I want to go ahead and say, hey, anybody with the link can view, or maybe I just want to share with someone specific down here. I usually say anyone with the link can view, so that way they won't be prompted to log in order to see that spreadsheet or that video or that document. But you certainly can do it however you'd like to, especially if the student is only sharing with you, so maybe they just type in your address. But what you want to do at that point is grab this link right here. Anyone with the link can view, and I'm just going to copy this. So I'm going to do a Control-C or an Apple-C, depending on if I'm on a Mac or a PC, and I can click on Done. And so when I go back to my Google drawing, I can go ahead and I'll just go to this doc here because it doesn't have a link yet, although I would want to put it on this spreadsheet. But right here, here's the doc, and when I go up to my toolbar, I want to find that icon that says Insert Link. And so when I click on Insert Link, I'm just going to paste in that link, and I say Apply, and so now that link is attached to this Google drawing. So anybody I send this Google drawing to will be able to click on that icon and then click on that link, and again, it's going to go out to that spreadsheet. So I could have a document that talks about Dr. Seuss, a Google slideshow that talks about Dr. Seuss, all these different things. Even though I have one Google drawing, I still have a lot of different things that I'm including inside that Google drawing. And if I go ahead and share this Google drawing with anybody that I share this with will be able to get those links as well. You just have to remember that all these different links have to be shared. And my rule of thumb is always make it anyone with the link can view, because later on down the road, if you decide to share it with somebody different, then you don't have to go back and change anything or add them by email address. You can just put it to anyone with the link can view, and then you can go ahead and copy that link. Just make sure you don't say anyone with the link can edit, because then they will be changing your project. However, if students are collaborating, they can go ahead and use that if they want to. But that's how all of that is controlled. And, you know, lots of people immediately think, oh man, that's such a bummer that I can't add pages to my Google drawing, but actually, in my opinion, I think it's great because it makes this one Google drawing, this one page, so powerful because everything is included in that. So anything can be linked out, maps, videos, slideshows, anything down here. You can have even pictures link out, like if I wanted this picture to link to something different, I can go ahead and do that too. So really, really neat things. Again, that's just an example of a timeline, but we kind of extended that out with the links, and you can go ahead and use all of those features on any Google drawing. I will also mention at this point, because you're probably looking at this Google drawing and thinking, oh wow, that has a gray background where all the other ones might have had white. And if you're just starting Google Drawings, your background will be white. It's called like a transparent background. If you'd like to change the color of your background, you can do a control click or a right click on your drawing, and you can go ahead and just select background, and that will change the color of your background. Once again, keep in mind if you're printing, because then you want to make sure that, you know, you're not printing like a yellow background or something like that. So really, really neat. So I'm going to go ahead and close out of that one, and we'll close out of this spreadsheet as well, and we'll go back to this presentation. So we talked about the making goals and the timeline. So just a couple other things, other examples, and then we'll go ahead and hop into Google Drawings. So using Google Drawing for student projects and assignments, and again, I put student projects and assignments up there. Certainly you can use any of these for any application or any type of topic where it's a lesson, a project, an assignment, anything like that. So it's not just specific to those different things. Okay, so there is a question and it says, when using Word, I like to add borders and watermarks. Is this possible in drawings? And in Google, I can go ahead and go to my blue new button, and I can go down to my More menu and select Google Drawings. And so once again, the question was about watermarks and borders. And so here's the easy answer for borders. I would just say there's no toolbar option that allows you to do borders. However, if you go out and you find a picture of a border or something like that, you certainly can use it inside your Google drawing, but there's nothing in the toolbar that allows you to use like a border of pumpkins or pencils or, you know, sunshines or something like that. Now, as far as watermarks go, what you can do for a watermark, and we briefly talked about this with the image, if I click on this image right here, this does allow me to use an image, and I love this part. This is the same in any G Suite application where I can go ahead and upload any type of file, or I can go ahead and find something from my Google Drive or even search for it. So I'll just go ahead and search for, let's say, we'll make it really simple. I'm going to search for a picture of a dog. So here's my dog, and I can just go ahead and hit select. And once this dog comes in here, it's really, really big, but you get the options, and I'm going to go ahead and move this over, where it says image options right up here. And again, your picture has to be selected in order for these options to pop up. So when I do that, I can change the transparency just by moving this this little slider. And so I can change the brightness, and I can change the contrast, and I can make it exactly how I want it by using that slider. There's really no checkbox or anything like that that says watermark or that says, something that defines it that way. Rather, you have to put the image in first and then go ahead and click on image options, and then you get to control what type of transparency you want with it. But if you'd like to put text over top of it, you certainly can do that just by putting a text box over top and then typing in that text. And so, again, the question was asking about, like, related to Microsoft Word, if you'd like to put, like, text over top of your picture, you certainly can still do that just by making your picture be a little bit more transparent and then putting your text over top. And you can make your text be bold or italic or underlined or whatever if you need to see it better or something like that. So hopefully that answered that question. Feel free to send more if you have any other questions. I'm going to show you, again, just a couple other examples, and then we'll hop in and do more things with Google Drawings. And so just a couple other things, this weather student assignment, and this is kind of similar to the one that we did a little bit earlier. The only addition that I put down here was my weather prediction. And so we talked before how we can move these things in and out, but if we wanted to have like a journaling activity for the students where they can go ahead and add, some sort of text down at the bottom, they can go ahead and do that. So really it's just, you creating these text boxes and pictures and moving them wherever you'd like to just by dragging and dropping them in different areas to go ahead and create that digital poster board or that flyer so that it looks, good to you. So let me go ahead and we already talked about timelines. Let me show you this comic strip here. So this comic strip, I love this idea because I've showed you a lot of elementary examples of how we can go ahead and use Google Drawings with weather and with, calendar and so forth in the morning, but I'm thinking now to the higher grades, maybe middle school and high school. If they wanted to do some sort of drawing where it was a little bit different other than just creating a poster board, this would be a great way to use Google Drawings. And so what I've done is I actually created one shape. And so I created this one shape right here just by using this Shapes tool. And again, I colored it by using the paint bucket. So I colored it right here with the paint bucket. And then again, I used my magic button, my duplicate button. So I did a Control-D or an Apple-D, and I duplicated it however many times. And so then I just kind of moved them so that they're all here together. These conversation bubbles are also shapes. And so up here, this is my Shapes tool. Once again, these are called callouts. And so I just put them in there. And then remember, if it's a shape, I can double click on it and then just automatically start typing. I don't have to put a text box. If it is a picture, I do have to put a text box because there's no way that I can just double click on it and type. You can only do that with shapes. But I can go ahead and move this anywhere I want to. Now, if you're looking at this and thinking like, wow, Krista, you created all these different shapes, why didn't you just create it, or why didn't you just create a table? And I certainly could have just created a table. If I wanted to create a table, I could have went up here to table, insert table, and I could have just did it that way also. But what I really wanted to do instead was I wanted to do these shapes because what if I decided to change the order of this comic strip? Or what if I decided to change things up a little bit? If it was inside of a table, it would have been a little bit harder to move it because I can't really easily move cells. I would have just had to copy and paste the information back and forth. But now that it's just in shapes, I can go ahead and take this shape. Of course, I can group it if I'd like to. I can click on the shape, and then I can hold down my Shift key and click on all the different things, and I can just do a right click on this and say group. And then if I say group, then that whole thing will move together depending on where I want to move it. And so that's where it becomes a little bit better to manipulate rather than putting it in a table. But I certainly could have done a table and then put everything in there too, so that would have been just fine. But I really like this idea of the comic strip, especially for the older kids. They I feel like they would get into this a little bit more because they can really be creative with all the shapes and the pictures and the conversation bubbles and so forth, and they can create their own little story. So that's an example of the comic strip. So just a couple of last things here, the All About Me drawing, and you know, you kind of hopefully have been getting the idea of lots of fun things that you can do with Google Drawing. I just like to point this one out because as we're already in May and thinking about next school year already, you may be thinking about ways that you can go ahead and get to know your class next year a little bit better, maybe quicker. And so this is always an activity that I like to do at the beginning of the school year because it's an all about me. Whereas especially for the older kids, if they don't like to come up and say, you know, what they're interested in, or, you know, they don't like to talk in front of the class, this would be a great way for them to go ahead and fill this out so that they can go ahead and turn this then into you. And remember, we can push this out using Google Classroom. We can push this out with, you know, just by emailing. We can put it up on the board. We can do lots of different ways so that they can go ahead and do this. Now, this one is a table. I did do a table. For this one, I just did a 2x2 table, and then I went ahead and just typed in all this information right here. So I could go ahead and do that. Again, this one, I did also change the background, and even though you're looking at this thinking that it's white, remember that a brand new Google Drawing, and I'll bring this one over again just so you can see this, a brand new Google Drawing does have that transparent background, what we call that. You can go ahead and click on that blue new button up at the top. Google Drawings is under that More menu. So you do want to click on that More menu and then say Google Drawings. So once you click on Google Drawings, it does pop up with a brand new one. Once again, you do have that transparent background, so if you'd like to change it, just go ahead and do a right click on it and say background. Of course, you want to go ahead and name that also. But here's all of our tools up here up at the top. So we have our comments, we have our text box, we have our shapes, we have our line tool, and all kinds of different things. If you're looking up at your toolbar and you're thinking like, oh, I don't remember where that one tool is, you also can go under your Insert menu. This is where a lot of those extra things are, including like charts. If you'd like to put a chart in your drawing, you can do that also. But I'll just go ahead and put in a shape just so I can show you this real quick. I'm going to go ahead and do a call out, and I was actually just teaching Google Drawings to third graders last week, and so they all did this banner up at the top. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this banner, and I'm just going to hold down with my mouse and just drag it out. So they put a little banner up at the top. And like I said earlier, it does default to that blue background. So if I want to change that, I can go ahead and click on that paint bucket up at the top, and I can go ahead and change it to whatever color I'd like, and then that way it kind of stands out a little bit more. Because it's a shape, I can go ahead and just double click on it, and then there is my text box, or there's my cursor that I can go ahead and just immediately start typing. So I can just say, welcome to third grade. So I can go ahead and do that. Now, if I'd like to highlight this text in any application, it's all the same. I can go ahead and make it bold. I can change the text color. So maybe I don't want it to be black. Maybe I want it to be red or yellow or something else. I'll just keep it as black so that it's easier to see. Well, we'll make it white. So there it is. And I can make it bigger. So all of these different features are going to be the same in any application that you use. So I can go ahead and make it really, really big. I can also center it. One of the things I want to mention to you is if I'm looking for my center tool and maybe I don't see it right at the top, if I go underneath that More menu right here, lots of extra stuff is under that More menu. So I can go ahead now and find the center or my spacing, my bullets, and some different things that I can go ahead and use. My center one was right next to the More one, but if I click on More, I get lots of other options. So I'll just go ahead and click on this center, and now it's centered on my page. And so once again, I can go ahead and pull in any type of shape or text box or comment or line tool or anything like that. I do want to kind of go back to the image part since, again, we kind of went over that a little quickly. If I wanted to put an image inside my Google Drawing, and I'll tell you, when I was teaching Google Drawings to 3rd grade last week, they were so excited to put their images inside their Google Drawing. And so there's 2 ways that I can go ahead and get this image inside Google Drawings. I can go ahead and go up to my image tool on my toolbar, which is right here, looks like little mountains, or I can go ahead and go under my Insert menu and select Image. Either way will work. And now I can go ahead and search out on the web for my image. I can get something from Google Drive, or I can even upload it. One of the neat features about any type of application within the G Suite is the ability that you can go ahead and go under your Tools menu, and you can use this tool called Explore. So I'm going to click on Explore. And the reason why this is different than just going to Insert Image or so forth is because I can go ahead and explore. Maybe I'm going to explore dogs. So I can say dogs. This will pull up information about dogs being on the web. It will pull up images of dogs being on the web, and it will pull anything from my Google Drive that has to do with dogs. And so I can scroll down. Maybe I'm going to look for images. So I'm going to scroll down for these different images, and I can go ahead and find some dogs. So let's go ahead and just use this first one. Now, if I hover over any of these, I can certainly drag and drop. That would be just fine. Or I can click on this plus sign right here. When I click on the plus sign, the image does come into my document, and then I can go ahead and resize it in any which way that I'd like to. One of the things that I like to show using this Explore tool is that it does also give you that link of where the image is found out on the web. So it does kind of tell you, it especially reminds the students that they did not create that image. That image was, someone else's. They found it on the web. They still can use it, but of course, if they'd like to cite it, they certainly can do that too. So that is the Explore tool. The Explore tool is available inside Docs. It's available inside Slides, and then also Drawings. So keep in mind that you can use that. Again, you certainly can insert your images from here or from your Insert menu image. But using that Explore tool, I like this because it allows me to see my drawing and also the Explore tool at the same time so that I can go ahead and drag and drop things, whatever I may need. So that's really neat. So other things that we talked about under our format, you have your bold italic. You can, under your Arrange tool, like if I wanted to do something like this, we kind of talked about this briefly where you could go ahead and group things. That's under your Arrange tool. Of course, I just have one thing selected. So if I would select both things, I can go ahead and group them under the Arrange tool, or I can just do a right click on it and that will allow me to arrange it, or group it. I can also rotate it. I can align it horizontally or vertically, or even center it on the page. So those are really neat. And so, I have all those abilities. Also under your Tools menu, you probably saw this already when I clicked on Explore. Here's my spell check, so that's available also. And then you did see before where I created that table, so you can go ahead and create a table too if that is helpful. So lots of different ways that you can use Google Drawings. And again, because it's a Google file, it's automatically saving in your Google Drive account. You just, of course, want to remember to go ahead and rename it up here at the top, and it does automatically save for you in Google Drive. So let me hop back here real quick And I just want to mention a couple last things. We talked about all those things, making the page bigger and so forth. We talked about adding links. I do want to talk to you about Flat Stanley here real quick. This is a popular one. If you've ever been, if you do use Flat Stanley, or if anybody teaches Flat Stanley maybe in your building, this is a neat one to do within Google Drawings because, again, you can create those links. And so I have a picture of Flat Stanley, and Flat Stanley traveled from Avon all the way to South Carolina. And so Flat Stanley he did a blog, and so this blog is a Google Doc. And so just like before, I used that share link right up at the top, and I was able to go ahead and highlight that and then copy and paste it into my drawing, and then that way it automatically linked it. And then this Google Maps. So we can also use Google Maps. If you're signed into Google, you can go ahead and create maps, have it save in your account. You can create these place marks, what we call them. And so you can go ahead, once they're in there, here's your share button. So that's where I got that link. So right here where it says link to share, that's what I copied into the Google drawing. So if we kind of think back to that earlier example that I was talking about Dr. Seuss, if I went ahead and created different place marks for all the different events in his life, I can go ahead and take that map just with that shareable link, copy that link into my Google drawing, and then now it links out to a Google map that has to do with his life. So some really neat things that you can go ahead and do. Google Earth recently completely they changed everything so that you can use that. You can use Tour Builder. You can use lots of different things in Google Maps. Google Maps is so neat that you can use lots of different things in Google Maps and, use that shareable link to go ahead and paste that link into your Google drawing. All right, a couple last things. I know I'm kind of running out of time here, so a couple last things. Publishing your drawing, if you would like to publish your drawing, so I just want to mention this real quick. If I go back to Flat Stanley, of course, it's saving automatically. We can use that share button over here. If I go down to this file menu, I get the option to publish to the web. So I can go ahead and publish it to the web. Now I'm going to tell you what this does. So this one actually is already published. So let me go to another one. Let me bring over this one in my test user account. So here over here, welcome to third grade, and we'll just say test up here just so we can go ahead and publish this one. So I'm going to say publish to the web, and once I say publish to the web and I say publish, are you sure you want to publish this? Yes. So then it gives me a link right here of where this image is. So if you'd like to share this Google drawing, but maybe you don't want people opening it in Google Drawing, you can go ahead and use this link. So if I copy this link and go out to a new page and paste this in there, this will automatically download for that person, whoever you send it to, and they can go ahead and open that up, and that's just a regular picture. Notice how there's no toolbars up at the top. It's not inside Google Drawing. It's just you created a picture or a flyer, and you published it, and now you can share it with anybody you want to. So you can do that in addition to just sharing Google files by that share button. You can also, with kind of along the same lines, and you probably saw this as well, right above Publish to the Web is Download As. So if I'd like to download as, I can download this as a PDF, I can download this as a JPEG file or a PNG file. It's going to do the same thing that it just did for publishing, in that it will give you a file that you can go ahead and email out or put it on Classroom, or you can even put it on your Google site if you'd like to, but it does not have any of the toolbars or anything off here, and it would be public. If you'd make it public on the web, you can go ahead and anybody would be able to see it, but they wouldn't be able to see all the changes up here in the toolbars that you have inside Google Drawings. So lots of neat things that you can go ahead and do within Google Drawings. So I'll go ahead and go back really quickly to this to my presentation. I just want to mention one last thing here. If you do publish it or if you do download it like we were just talking about, it does not include the sides. So in other words, if I look at this Flat Stanley one, if I send this out to people in my district, it will only show this middle area, which is called the canvas. It does not show these sides. So if you have directions on the sides, or if you have other things that have to do with your drawing, you do want to make sure that you either move them over or just keep it as a Google drawing, because when you publish it or download it, these things are removed. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about the last thing, which is thank you for attending our Google Drawings webinar for today. If you'd like to get involved with our Google Educators group, there is the link there. That is the same link that I showed at the very beginning. It's a free thing to join. You can go ahead and see what kind of events we're hosting all over the state of Ohio. If you'd like to attend any of our events or present at any of our events, you can feel free to visit that link and get some information. If you'd like a copy of this presentation, there's the link down there. You can go ahead and make yourself a copy. But this webinar is recorded, and this presentation will also be out on the web. So you can, if you don't want to jot that down now, you certainly don't have to. You can always get it later. If you'd like to sign up for our Tuesday Tech Tips, there's the link for that. Once again, every Tuesday, we send a Tech Tip email to your email inbox, and it just has a couple things that you can maybe try in your classroom dealing with technology, and you can feel free to use those. It's just one email every Tuesday. And then lastly, for the CEU information, if you've never attended one of our webinars before, you will get an email. We say 24 hours, but it's usually by tomorrow morning when you get to school. You will have an email from our NOACA FileMaker system, and it basically has you fill out an evaluation. Once you fill out that evaluation, it's going to go ahead and ask for your name and your district and so forth. And then your CEU will automatically come to your email inbox. So it would be automatically emailed to you. So again, just look for that initial email tomorrow morning in your inbox from NOACA FileMaker. Fill out that evaluation, and then the next step, go ahead and write or put your name in there, and then your CEU will be emailed directly to you. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to stay inside this webinar just for 5 or 10 minutes. If you guys have any questions about Google Drawing, hopefully this was enough information for you to go ahead and get started with Google Drawings. I love Google Drawings. It's one of my favorite G Suite apps now. You could do so many fun things with it. So hopefully I've given you some information. Thank you for attending, and again, I will stay in here if you have any questions.